My aunt passed away, and my cousin came to the capital for her wedding. But she mistakenly thought my fiancé was hers. Song Pei didn't explain. Instead, he brought my cousin into the mansion and cared for her meticulously. When I went to see her, Song Pei brought out my betrothal gift box and let my cousin pick things to play with. My cousin grew drowsy and dozed off, leaning against him. Song Pei lifted her up casually, just playing with the little girl. "Now I'll return her to her rightful owner," I said calmly. "Let's annul the betrothal." "I'm not joking." My aunt passed away, and my cousin Miao Miao came to the capital seeking her fiancé. Mother lay on her sickbed, clutching a letter sent by my cousin. She sighed to me. "Her fiancé is no good. He's been off fighting wars all these years, and I hear he has a violent temper. Now that your cousin has lost her parents, who knows how he'll treat her once she's married." My cousin's fiancé was named Xiao Jue, son of the late valiant general. Back when he was still in the capital, he was notorious as a spoiled playboy. I recalled childhood trips to Jiangzhou, when my cousin, still a rosy-cheeked little ball of fluff, would chase after me, picking lotus pods for me to eat. My heart softened, and I resolved to stand up for her. But my household duties were overwhelming, leaving me unable to leave. After much deliberation, I entrusted Song Pei to fetch my cousin. First, he was my betrothed. Second, he was also Miao Miao's uncle by marriage, making it a legitimate request. Song Pei disdained mundane affairs, finding such errands most tedious. Upon hearing my request, he gently tapped my nose. "I must personally hunt a southern goose for you these next 2 days. How could I possibly spare time to fetch a little girl?" I pleaded with him at length. Only after promising to make him more peach blossom cakes did he finally relent and agree. On the day Miao Miao arrived in the capital, I made a point to sneak a glance from afar. Xiao Jue hadn't come, as expected. Song Pei, however, arrived as promised. It was a day of light drizzle. When the young girl stepped ashore from the black-roofed boat, her foot suddenly twisted. Song Pei supported her body with his folding fan, steadied her, then stepped back. His expression was distant, yet not entirely cold. Reassured, I returned to the mansion to prepare the guest quarters. Unexpectedly, that very night, a fire broke out in the mansion. Four courtyards were largely consumed by flames, leaving the living quarters suddenly insufficient. I had no choice but to ask Song Pei to look after Miao Miao for a few more days. Song Pei reluctantly agreed, though the tone of the letters he sent over the next couple of days carried a hint of resentment. He complained that Miao Miao was uncouth, using his Ming Dynasty vase for flowers, and certainly not as gentle and refined as I was. Later, he mentioned she acted on impulse, even finding his clothes too plain and taking them to dye with phoenix tail flowers. His tone was resigned. "My dear, when might you take this young lady away?" I longed for relief. I found it amusing. Knowing Miao Miao grew up in the countryside, her unfamiliarity with certain etiquette was perfectly natural. Yet this unpretentious, genuine nature seemed well suited to her fiancé, who was a general. However, Song Pei's proud nature likely found it tiresome. So I had servants deliver several rare volumes from my personal collection to console him. Only after the betrothal list was finalized, Mother's illness significantly improved, and the relocation of the estate concluded, did I suddenly realize Miao Miao had been staying at Song Pei's residence for over half a month. Moreover, his letters complaining about her had ceased arriving long ago. A strange unease stirred within me. My mind kept wandering during the accounting, leading to frequent errors. My trusted maid noticed my distraction. After asking why, she smiled. "You should be happy, young lady. A man as proud as your future husband has endured that country girl for so long, all for your sake." Was that so? Yet my heart remained unsettled. Early the next morning, I carried a tray of peach blossom cakes I'd spent an hour making to the Song residence. I didn't use the main gate, instead approaching through an alley behind the estate. Since my youth, the Song family had imposed strict demands on Song Pei, burdening him daily with heavy study tasks. I'd often climb walls or slip through dog holes to play with him. Later, as he grew older and took charge of the household, free from parental supervision, he even had a small gate specially opened for me, allowing only me to come and go freely. Stepping down from the carriage, I spotted a figure in pink cloud-patterned brocade sneaking through that very gate. I hurried over and asked the gatekeeper who it was. The gatekeeper grinned like a chrysanthemum and respectfully replied, "It's Miss Meow Meow. She just slipped out unnoticed by the young master to buy some pastries." Meow meow? Those two words struck me like lightning, leaving me momentarily dazed. "And this gate?" "The young master ordered it." The gatekeeper still smiled. But that smile felt unbearably sharp to me. I clenched the food box in my hand. The door I'd pushed open dozens of times before suddenly felt daunting. After standing there for what felt like an eternity, I gently pushed the wooden door open. The sight before me stabbed me like a knife. A dozen or so rosewood chests were piled in the courtyard. A girl in pink was asleep, her head resting on one of them. That chest looked familiar. Ever since my betrothal to Song Pei 3 months ago, I'd secretly visited the Song residence to peek at the betrothal gifts he'd prepared for me. Meaning these casually placed chests in the courtyard were my betrothal gifts. A handkerchief lay spread on the ground beside the girl, holding several half-eaten peach blossom cakes. My fiancé, Song Pei, crouched on the ground, tilting his head as he gazed dreamily at the faintly sleeping face. He still held a jade fan in his hand, gently fanning her. It was a scene of perfect tranquility. But then, the food box in my hand slipped from my grasp and crashed to the ground with a loud clatter. Song Pei instinctively looked up. His gaze locked directly with mine, filled with anger and disbelief. He scrambled to his feet, flustered. Instinctively, he tried to explain. The girl on the ground stirred awake. Rubbing her eyes, she reached out drowsily yet familiarly to tug at Song Pei's robe. "Little fiancé, who's here? Let me hear your explanation." I watched coldly as Song Pei lifted Princess Meow Meow and carefully placed her on the guest room bed. I fought back the urge to confront him, to slap him across the face. I knew Song Pei preferred gentle women, and I forced myself to restrain. I feared he truly had no choice but to act this way. If I misunderstood him, he might ignore me for months like he did before. Until he finally emerged, standing beside a clump of phoenix tail flowers, explaining the open betrothal chests scattered throughout the courtyard. "It's simple, not as bad as you imagine. She mistook me for her fiancé and thought these chests were for her, so she had to look inside. Otherwise, she would have cried and made a scene." He began, his words coming out with both effort and ease. "I thought you were a generous woman, and besides, Meow Meow is your cousin. You shouldn't mind." "I do mind." I cut him off. A red stain marred his white robe. I stared at it for a long moment before recalling the pattern he described in his letter, "Dyed by the ferns." The pattern was crooked, yet I recognized it instantly as a single character, Meow. "She mistook you for her fiancé, and you didn't correct her, did you?" He massaged his temples. In our past arguments, when he wanted to end the dispute, he'd use this gesture to remind me. It was just a joke, teasing the little girl. Take her back today and consider it returning what was rightfully hers. Is that all right? I stood frozen, my gaze drifting to an open dowry chest. Inside lay half a bolt of yinguang brocade, the rare fabric I'd once told him I longed for, produced only 100 bolts a year. Why only half a bolt? I recalled Meow Meow sitting carelessly on the floor. What I'd fought so desperately for was nothing more than something others could trample effortlessly. My eyes stung fiercely. Suddenly, all desire to fight vanished. Meow Meow isn't an object, and neither am I. Let the betrothal be annulled. I'm not joking. With that, I turned and walked away, not caring what expression Song Pei wore. Back at the mansion, I locked myself in my room and cried my heart out. Exhausted by my tears, I drifted into a half-sleep where I dreamed of all the moments I'd shared with Song Pei. The person Song Pei truly loved was never me. I'd always been wild and hot-tempered, climbing trees and playing with swords, not the proper sort of girl. It wasn't until my father sent me to the clan school that I met Song Pei. His hair was neatly tied back, his face as fair as jade. In class, he once silenced the master I'd always feared with his arguments. The master glared, twirling his beard. For the first time, I felt such intense interest in someone. From across the classroom, I peeked at him and met his clear, cool eyes. For some reason, he suddenly smiled at me. That smile melted like the first snow, seeping deep into my heart. I was bold by nature. Once certain of my feelings, I resolved to confess. But in the peach grove, I found him reciting poetry to my cousin. There is a fair maiden, graceful and gentle. My cousin wore a pale green gown, every movement radiating the dignified grace I had once scorned. Staring at the mud that had somehow stained my shoe tips, I suddenly felt utterly unworthy. Hurrying away, I dropped the sachets meant for Song Pei. For the next 3 years, I hired a palace governess through my mother. Enduring countless beatings with the ruler, I labored to learn how to be a proper young lady, a noble woman of distinction. Finally, I caught Song Pei's attention. Leaving Miao Miao behind with Song Pei, I wasn't without doubts. But I believed I knew the kind of woman he favored. I let my guard down. How laughable, I struggled to become the woman he desired, yet he fell in love with my former self. Tears streamed down my face until late into the night before I finally fell asleep, rising only near noon. After washing and dressing, a maid entered to announce, "Miss, the fiancé of that cousin has come to see you." Fiancé? I mulled the words over before realizing they referred to Miao Miao's betrothed, that notorious playboy, Xiao Jue. He refused to come when we went to fetch Miao Miao that day. What business does he have here now? I couldn't help but feel a twinge of resentment toward Xiao Jue. Had he gone then, perhaps none of this would have happened. I had barely stepped outside the hall when I heard a commotion inside. Drawing closer, I made out the voice of a young man boasting arrogantly. "Mark my words, young master. I personally slay at least 17 assassins whenever I go out. I sleep gripping my sword at night. If you marry me, you'd better weigh whether you have the guts. Anyway, I've said all I need to say. Quickly call off the engagement. It's for the good of both our families." His arrogant tone instantly ignited the suppressed anger in my heart. Hanging by the hall entrance was the crossbow I'd begged my father to buy me in my youth. I walked straight over, took it down, drew the bowstring with eyes closed, and nocked an arrow. Whoosh, the arrow whizzed past Xiao Jue's cheek, piercing straight through the gap between the flower branches before him, finally embedding itself in the wall. Several petals drifted down slowly. The youth, who had been facing away from me, suddenly turned his head. His high ponytail swung back, and his beautiful almond-shaped eyes sparkled with tiny glints of light. He smiled, his sword-like eyebrows arching slightly. "So you are my fiancé?" He bowed his hands, adopting an extremely polite demeanor. "How fortuitous! I came to discuss the wedding date with you." Discuss the wedding date? The words rolled off my tongue, yet I found them utterly incomprehensible. Why didn't you come sooner? Recalling all that might have transpired between Song Pei and Miao Miao these past days, my expression darkened instantly. The young man who moments ago had boasted arrogantly about breaking off the engagement now hung his head in shame. "It was my fault for not coming to meet your boat that day. But my legs were injured on the battlefield. I lay in bed at the manor for a full fortnight before finally regaining the strength to rise." His words sounded aggrieved, though hidden beneath his robes, I couldn't tell if he spoke truth or falsehood. Yet seeing his youth, I imagined he must have endured far greater hardships on the battlefield. All my resentment vanished instantly. "I'm sorry, I spoke too harshly earlier. I didn't know you had other circumstances." Xiao Jue's eyes lit up again. "Are you forgiving me, young lady?" I was a bit bewildered. It wasn't me marrying him, why would I hold a grudge? Of course not. Then what do you think of me? I was even more puzzled. Still, I offered a polite reply, handsome and dashing, a model for all men. Xiao Jue smiled, a small dimple appearing at the corner of his mouth. His eyes sparkled. "Very well. In half a month, no, tomorrow, I shall deliver the betrothal gifts." With that, he bowed to me and strode away. His retreating figure seemed almost impatient. I was left standing there, utterly bewildered. What was Xiao Jue playing at? Hadn't he just been insisting on breaking off the engagement with Miao Miao? I shook my head, pushing the confusion aside. Just then, a maid hurried in to report. Mr. Song has returned Miss Miao Miao." Before they reached the door, I heard Song Pei's warm voice. "I explained everything to you along the way. I am not your fiancé. My betrothed is your cousin, Sang Wan. These past days, she entrusted me to look after you. Here are some peach blossom cakes for you to eat." Prepare well for your marriage, be more discerning, and don't let yourself be deceived. Miao Miao's hair had been carefully combed again, styled into 2 flower bud buns, her lips pressed into a pout. Brother Pei, are you abandoning me? Recalling Xiao Jue's marriage proposal, I stepped forward to remind her, Miao Miao, you should address him as your cousin uncle. Tears instantly welled in Miao Miao's eyes. But I just want to call him Brother Pei. Song Pei looked at me, his tone disapproving. Let her call him whatever she wants. Children don't understand formalities. You're her future aunt-in-law, you can explain it to her later. I murmured softly, she's only half a year younger than me. What? He hadn't heard clearly. I couldn't be bothered to repeat myself. All right, Miao Miao, and I will go inside now. Lingering at the door like this isn't good for your reputation. Miao Miao released Song Pei's sleeve and reluctantly took my hand. Fine then, cousin. Just remember not to bully me, or I'll tell Brother Pei everything. I dislike close contact with strangers, especially when her hand was clammy with sweat. I tried to pull away, but she gripped my hand tightly. I exhaled. I endured it. Just as we were about to enter, Song Pei suddenly called out to me, handing me a book. Awan, this is my annotated edition of the 4 books for you. For next month's female official examination, I believe you can do it. I also ask you. He paused, then in a rare playful tone, I ask my future wife to take good care of Miao Miao. I took a step back, evading his outstretched hand. Polite yet distant. Not necessary, young Master Song. And let me remind you once more, our betrothal is null and void. With that, I pulled Miao Miao firmly into the mansion. The red gates closed. Song Pei stood rooted to the spot for a long time. After a while, he let out a soft chuckle. She's sulking at me again. I arranged for Miao Miao to stay in my mother's courtyard, it was also mother's wish. She had been close with my aunt in the past. After so many years apart, she wanted to talk with Miao Miao. But barely an hour had passed when a maid rushed to summon me. Young miss. Something terrible has happened. The lady has fainted. What? I was utterly shocked, the teacup in my hand shattering on the floor. I rushed over immediately. When I arrived, the estate physician had just emerged from mother's room. Miao Miao stood guarding the doorway, hesitating to speak. I ignored her. I inquired about mother's condition. The physician sighed deeply, explaining that mother had suffered a sudden attack of heat rising to the heart. Already gravely ill, the shock had worsened her condition. He feared. The unspoken implication hung heavy in the air. Struck as if by lightning, I braced myself against the table corner, taking a long moment to steady myself. After dispatching a maid to summon the imperial physician, I finally managed to ask, what happened? The maid pursed her lips and glanced at Miao Miao beside her. It was cousin Miss. After seeing the lady, she burst into tears and said, What did she say? She said the lady is dying, and that you, miss, had her stay in this courtyard with ulterior motives, jealous that Master Song favors her more, so you wanted to bring her bad luck. Miao Miao piped up plaintively from the side. I didn't know, madam. I had no idea that was my aunt. I didn't mean to. My chest heaved violently with rage. Whether you knew or not, how dare you say such things in my home, in front of a sick person? If anything happens to my mother, I won't let you off. Miao Miao burst into a wail. You wicked woman. You lied to Brother Pei, saying you'd take good care of me. You're being mean to me. Mean. She covered her mouth and ran out. The maid asked me what to do. What about her? I spat. Let her go to hell if she wants. Serves her right. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to calm down. Send someone to follow her. The capital is a den of thieves. Don't let anything happen to that poor girl. Understood. Only after they had all left did I enter mother's room. Sitting on the bed, I stared at her pale face, tears streaming down my face. In the middle of the night, the imperial physician came once. He shook his head, wrote a prescription, and left. I stayed with mother all night. It wasn't until the next day that the maid woke me. Miss, young Master Song has arrived with Meow Meow. What for? To call off the engagement. I steadied my slightly unsteady form, my gaze shifting from Song Pei, standing as straight as green bamboo, to the trembling figure of Meow Meow beside him. Her hair hung half uncovered, her skirt stained with mud. The moment I emerged, her eyes brimmed with tears. Song Pei stepped forward, blocking my view. He regarded me with an expression both intensely complex and utterly unfamiliar. Sang-won, you've gone too far. Do you realize what might have happened to Meow Meow if I hadn't found her in Peach Blossom Alley this morning? How could you be so heartless, driving a young girl from her home just out of jealousy? But the guards saw her enter the inn to rest before returning to report. The maid beside me tried to protest indignantly, but I silenced her. Yesterday she drove my mother into a rage that attacked her heart. She still hasn't regained consciousness. Even if I did expel her, what wrong have I done? Song Pei instinctively frowned. Impossible. Meow Meow is a pure, kind-hearted girl. She often gives pastries to beggars passing by. She absolutely couldn't have done such a thing. Seeing my face darken, he pressed his forehead again. Sang-won, it's not that I don't believe you. But you shouldn't just assume all the blame lies with Meow Meow. There must be some misunderstanding here. Watching Meow Meow crouched on the ground like a frightened quail, picking at her fingers, I smiled. Will you explain yourself, or shall my maid do it for you? Song Pei's voice turned cold. Sang-won, don't threaten a little girl. I ignored him, my gaze fixed on Meow Meow. Meow Meow whispered weakly, I didn't mean to jinx her. I didn't know it was my aunt at first. I'm sorry, cousin. Sniffle sniffle. Song Pei's face darkened. It was directed at me. He asked me with a tone laced with sarcasm, is that all? Because of this? Just one careless remark, and you instinctively blame Meow Meow? I only felt a rage bordering on the absurd. Suddenly, I felt utterly exhausted. Mother was still waiting for me. I didn't want to get entangled with them any longer. Didn't you say you came to call off the engagement? I've agreed. The mocking word Song Pei had been about to spit out suddenly died in his throat. What did you say? You. Do you realize that for the Sang family's standing, marrying into the Song family is already the best outcome possible? I was utterly baffled. Didn't you say you came to call off the engagement? I agreed. What more do you want? Song Pei's eyes instantly reddened. I just want you to apologize to Meow Meow. She's still so young, you shouldn't have treated her like that. I sighed, knowing he was utterly incapable of understanding reason. Turning back to Meow Meow, I felt both disappointment and anger. I believed I'd done everything possible for her. You want me to apologize to you too? Meow Meow puckered her lips. Anyway, if I'm unhappy, I won't give Brother Pei back to you. I chuckled dryly, walking toward her as she expected. Then I raised my hand and brought it down hard. Meow Meow burst into tears instantly. Song Pei's eyes widened as he shouted at me, what are you doing? I said nothing, only turned and slapped Song Pei again. Concise and forceful, I declared, get out. All of you. With that, I was about to order someone to close the door. Then, a hand with prominent knuckles suddenly blocked the doorway. A pair of almond-shaped eyes narrowed, smiling like a fox. I've brought the betrothal gifts as promised, Miss Meow Meow. I coldly kicked the pebble before me aside, a vague ache welling in my heart. General Xiao, please discuss the wedding date directly with her. From this day forward, I am no longer her cousin. Xiao Jue froze. Suddenly, a small hand reached out from the side, tugging gently at Xiao Jue's sleeve. Meow Meow's cheeks flushed crimson. Blinking her moist eyes, she asked with hurt, are you my betrothed? A general must be even more formidable than Brother Song Pei, right? My cousin just hit me, you must stand up for me. Did you prepare those betrothal gifts? Is there the cloudlight brocade I love? If not, Meow Meow will choose Brother Song Pei instead. Xiao Jue mechanically turned his head, scrutinizing Meow Meow from head to toe. In disbelief, he asked, you're Meow Meow? Meow Meow puckered her lips. You finally came. Otherwise Sister Sang-won would have kicked me out of the mansion with nowhere to stay. Meow Meow hurt so much, hold me tight." With that, she flung herself onto Xiao Jue's body, utterly oblivious to the stunned gaze Song Pei cast her way from behind. But in the next instant, Xiao Jue sidestepped her. With a dull thud and Miao Miao's cry of pain, Xiao Jue slipped inside, swiftly slamming the door shut, trapping Miao Miao's sobs outside, all in one fluid motion, as if some malevolent spirit had come to claim a life. He then approached me, bowing his hands in greeting. "Greetings, Miss Sang. I am Xiao Jue, here to propose marriage. 99 chests of betrothal gifts await outside, preparations my parents made for their future daughter-in-law. Additionally, I bring deeds to 500 acres of land and 100 shops, my entire fortune." The youth before me laid bare his entire background in one breath. This was an unconventional proposal, no matchmaker, no meeting of parents. Yet, inexplicably, he radiated a sincerity that felt impossible to refuse. It reminded me of a puppy I'd encountered in my childhood, its eyes shining brightly as it followed me, clutching its only tattered bowl. My mouth hung slightly open as I stood stunned for a long moment. Only then did I finally understand Xiao Jue's disjointed reaction that day. I looked at him in puzzlement. "Did you mistakenly believe I was your betrothed that day?" The youth flushed crimson, yet answered with unflinching candor, "Yes. I fell for you at first sight." My thoughts were utterly chaotic. With mother's illness pressing, I naturally had no room to ponder Xiao Jue's matter. Yet when I met the youth's earnest gaze, I simply couldn't bring myself to say no. Xiao Jue seemed to sense my conflict. Understandingly, he said, "I mistakenly took you for someone else earlier. Miss Sang, you may take your time to consider. Of course, even if you refuse me, it's perfectly fine." He lowered his head, his eyes dimming. "Though I'm an orphan with no one to care for me and a poor reputation, it doesn't matter. Miss Sang, please don't feel pressured. Just follow your heart." Before I could respond, Xiao Jue took his leave. My heart heavy with worry, I returned to my mother's chamber. The sight of her pale, sleeping face washed away all other thoughts. Come evening, I sent someone to summon the imperial physician. Instead, a maid came with joyful news. "The divine physician, Elder He, has arrived." Startled, I hurriedly asked what had happened. Master He was a renowned physician from the previous dynasty, his medical skill unmatched in the world. Yet for the past 5 years, he had scarcely treated anyone. I had sent for him yesterday only to be turned away. The maid shook her head, claiming ignorance. I suppressed my doubts and went personally to invite Master He inside. Master He had just stepped down from his carriage. A voice tinged with coldness cut through the air. "Sang Wan, you've gone too far." Without turning back, I ordered the maid to escort Master He immediately. Only then did I turn to face Song Pei. He wore moonwhite robes today, his chest stained with the juice of a phoenix tail flower. I held the lantern, its bright yellow light unable to calm my agitated heart. "What brings you here now?" Song Pei stepped forward, his tone righteous. "Why did you compete with me for Master He's consultation? You knew Miao Miao had fallen hard. If she suffers lasting damage because you snatched him away, what then?" The memory of that dull thud echoed in my mind. I scoffed. "What does that have to do with me?" Song Pei's voice darkened. "She's your cousin, Sang Wan. You used to be kind and generous. This isn't like you. Not like me?" Anger surged within me once more. Why doesn't young Master Song ask himself, is it right to live and eat alongside a girl who's just reached marriageable age? Is it right to hide his identity and maintain ambiguous relations with another girl while already betrothed? You judge me by the sage's standards, yet you never examine your own filthy, vile heart. Sang Wan. He raised his voice. "So what?" I stood my ground, unyielding. But then his tone suddenly softened, tinged with hurt. "What did Xiao Jue say to you after entering today? He doesn't want Miao Miao anymore, so why did he bring a street full of betrothal gifts?" Only then did I recall Xiao Jue mentioning he brought 99 chests of gifts. Though I didn't see it myself, imagining the scale, it truly would fill a street. "What business is it of yours?" I tried to leave, but Song Pei grabbed my sleeve. His eyes drooped, his gaze both panicked and helpless, yet he remained cold and firm. The betrothal gifts my household intends for you were all decided through our mutual agreement, Sang-won. You must not accept offerings from others. I wrenched my arm free. If you're willing to let another woman pick through your dowry, why can't I discard trash like you? Get lost, Song Pei. I won't spare you any dignity, and I never want to see you again. Speaking those words brought me immense relief. Once, to meet Song Pei's ideal of a woman, I suppressed my true nature, forcing every gesture to be gentle and courteous. Now, reclaiming my true nature, all my pent-up frustration vanished. After I left, Song Pei stood rooted to the spot for a long time. Gazing at the vermilion gate that had slammed shut behind me, he recalled Sang-won's resolute words. Suddenly, he realized she wasn't joking. Sang-won truly did not want him anymore. In the ink-washed night of the capital, a cool breeze brushed across his brow. He bent down to pick up the lantern Sang-won had dropped. It felt like picking up that sachet she dropped in the peach grove all those years ago. How could he not have loved her? How had things come to this? Why would Sang-won, with her gentle nature, insist on picking a fight with some little girl? He wandered aimlessly down the street, passing a tea house by chance. Inside, voices chattered warmly. He stepped in and sat in a corner. Someone nearby chuckled, "None of that compares to what I saw yesterday at the Heaven and Earth Inn." That young girl was breathtaking, dressed in pink, with 2 buns on her head, a jade guanine pendant around her neck. Her voice was like a fairy's, sweet and delicate. A woman that divine? Why didn't you try to get to know her? The man sighed. How could I dare? That girl was followed by guards from the Sang family. I once worked as a coachman for them. That girl. She's not someone I could ever hope to approach. Song Pei listened from start to finish, his heart growing utterly cold. Meow Meow had deceived him. He still remembered that morning when he saw her. She was crouched outside the small door he'd once reserved especially for Sang-won. Half her hair was disheveled, her skirt stained. She looked so pitiful. Her voice was soft and delicate, like a kitten's. It had instantly tugged at his heartstrings. If only things hadn't been this way, if only. How could he have been so furious as to seek Sang-won to break off the engagement? How could he have let their relationship deteriorate to this wretched state? Scenes of Sang-won's cold, distant demeanor flashed through Song Pei's mind. At the time, he'd thought it was unreasonable fuss, but now he realized it was a broken heart. How much pain must she have endured when he misunderstood her? As these thoughts swirled, a metallic taste suddenly filled his throat, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The rumors about Elder He's medical skill were no exaggeration. After several doses of medicine and acupuncture sessions, Mother had recovered significantly. When Mother awoke, I held her close, my tears soaking through my sleeves. Father was consumed by official duties. All these years, Mother alone had upheld the vast Sang household and raised me. Unlike Song Pei. Whether I was coarse or refined, Mother's love for me remained constant. I thanked Elder He repeatedly, but he refused the 10 taels of gold I offered for the medicine. He said, "It's already been paid." When I asked who, Master he wouldn't say. He only replied, "That person doesn't want you to owe them a favor." After Master he left, I went over every household in the capital that had dealings with ours. Only one name lingered in my mind, one I hesitated to consider. That night, I insisted on sleeping with my mother. Having slept much during the day, she was now alert, and we talked for a long time. Until I casually inquired, "Mother, do you not care much for Xiao Jue?" Having met him these past days, he seems quite different from the rumors, not some idle, uneducated playboy. My maid had already inquired. During his time at the Imperial Academy, Xiao Jue ranked first in his class. Later, on the battlefield, he quickly earned significant military honors. He's quite formidable. But his sharp temper and love of revelry made him unpopular among his peers, who spread rumors of his debauchery. Envy is never exclusive to women. In the darkness, Mother suddenly let out a laugh. This must be what Wanwan truly wanted to say tonight. I buried my flushed face beneath the quilt, pleading softly, "Mother." Mother ceased her teasing. She listened to my recounting of these past days. Her voice stretched out, as if recalling events from long ago. Come to think of it, you two even played together in Jiangzhou when you were young. I liked him very much back then too. But when his parents only asked for Miao Miao's name, I thought he had no interest in you. Looking back now, I suspect he mistook me for someone else from that moment on. The day Xiao Jue and I formally pledged our marriage was the Lantern Festival. We agreed to meet at the Lingxian Pavilion. Walking through the bustling streets, I guessed several riddles and won 2 lanterns. I particularly loved one shaped like a lotus flower, but I was narrowly beaten by the man in white beside me. Just as I was about to leave in disappointment, the man wearing the rabbit mask stopped me. He was clad in a wide-sleeved white robe, leaning slightly forward as if to offer me that lantern. I hastily waved him off. His voice was deep. It was always meant for you. Wan, consider this my apology. I now know the truth of that day. It was my fault, I shouldn't have doubted you. I've expelled Miao Miao from my household. Without support, she'll surely meet a bitter end. Wan, perhaps this will ease your... Hearing that familiar voice, I finally recognized him. Somehow, the person I once adored now filled me with an inexplicable aversion at his mere words. Master Song, I don't need it. Song Pei stiffened, yet persisted stubbornly, but every year, I'd give you one. You'd hang it by the door, wishing us smooth sailing year after year. You said it yourself, that was years ago. I used to like you, but not anymore. I want nothing to do with you or your cheap lanterns. I took a step back to leave, only to collide with a broad chest. I instinctively turned to apologize, but a large hand closed around my waist, gently pulling me back, trapping me in place. The crisp scent of cedar filled my nostrils. My fiancé needs no escort. Xiao Jue rested his chin lightly on my hair. As I tried to move, he pressed an exquisitely crafted palace lantern into my hands. Inside, a delicately made little rabbit spun slowly. A breeze swept through my hair as the young man's voice rang clear. Wan, hold it up. I instinctively raised the lantern. It felt like sending some kind of signal. A thunderous boom erupted at the horizon. Suddenly someone shouted, "Fireworks! Why are they setting them off so early this year?" One burst, then 2. Fireworks filled the sky from afar, nearly illuminating half the heavens. Despite the deafening noise, the sound of my own heartbeat filled my ears. Amidst the fading lights, Song Pei gazed at me with a lonely expression, his eyes reddened. He still couldn't understand, even if he was wrong, why wouldn't I give him a single chance? Fireworks flickered in and out of my vision. The lantern in my hand felt cheap at that moment. Xiao Jue curved his lips. He removed the fox mask from his face and placed it over mine, completely blocking Song Pei's view. Before I knew it, the day of my marriage to Xiao Jue arrived. Mother consulted the almanac, declaring it a rare auspicious day in recent years. Favorable for weddings, favorable for travel. Seated in the bridal sedan chair, I watched the bustling crowd as maids scattered wedding candies and small change. Waves of blessings paved my path into the Xiao household. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed ahead. What happened? The coachman's deep voice replied, nothing serious. Just a carriage collided with a stall up ahead. We'll have to take a detour. Soon, everything returned to normal. I clutched my sleeve, an inexplicable unease settling over me. Peeking through the curtain, I glimpsed unfamiliar streets, my heart sinking further. The wedding candies must have been distributed, for the streets were now empty of onlookers. Just as panic gripped me, a clear, youthful voice sounded from beyond the curtain. My dear, fear not. Your husband is here with you. First joy, then shock, my ears flushed crimson. You. How did you come? This is improper. In Yu Dynasty custom, the groom waits at home for the bride to be escorted in. His voice was languid yet earnest. I have no parents. I know nothing of propriety. I only worry my future wife might be frightened. I considered it, but decided not to tell him. Naturally suspicious, I placed my beloved crossbow beneath my seat, just in case. The sun was high in the sky as Xiao Jue rode his chestnut stallion, shielding me as we covered the remaining distance. Meanwhile, Song Pei, dressed in wedding robes and attempting to disrupt the general's joyous occasion, was dragged to the magistrate's office. They say he was disheveled, his appearance mad. His mouth kept muttering, "It shouldn't be like this. It can't be like this. It's all your fault. All your fault. If you hadn't deceived me, how could Wanwan have left me?" Along the way, he seemed to spot someone. He violently broke free from the officer's restraints and rushed toward a girl in pink. He clamped his hands around her throat. In the critical moment, the girl drew a hairpin and stabbed him, ending his life. That hairpin was the gift he'd given her when they first met. Back then, she was so sweet and lovely, instantly reminding him of their past. How did things come to this? The end.